Hi everyone. So I wanted to make a video like this for a really long time. I know it's not a fair competition because when you compare the price, I think the Pixel 6 or Pixel 6 Pro might be a better option in this case. But I really wanted to compare this phone just because of their size. See, I like a phone which is good enough for me to use with a single hand, like I can just reach anywhere I want to, has a great battery life for its size, a good processor, and even a great camera. So I don't really care about the best camera, best display, best battery, best performance, or even the faster charging speed. I always look for a phone that works for me when I need it. For example, like I'm coming back from gym and I want to text someone, I can just open an app, and if I want to write something, I should be able to do it with one hand because I usually have a bottle in my hand or something like that. So in that case of scenario, like this is my like regular case of scenario. So for that, I need a phone that is quite compact. I know there are people like me who just want to consider these phones because of its size, nothing else. And so far, the only choices I had like iPhone 13, 13 mini, S22, Pixel 4a, and that's about it. I mean, I don't count Asus 8 because it was barely available and it was too late, and I think that is going to happen with the Asus Zenfone 9 as well. But Google has now launched this Pixel 6a. See, Pixel 4a was a decent phone and I actually loved it, but it's getting old now. The battery life is also not really good and the performance is slow. And S22 also had its own issues. Not everyone wanted to switch to iOS, and people who did might not even like it, but they're keeping it just because of the size. So we desperately needed a phone in Android that has a compact phone that we can use with one hand. I know 6.1 inch is not technically a compact phone, but this is something that you can still use with one hand because more or less every single phone is getting out of hand, like 6.4, 6.5, 6.6 inch phone. Please keep in mind that they are both differently priced phone, and iPhone 13 will do better in many scenarios. Like it has a much better build, more premium design except that notch, the more solid protection, wireless charging, MagSafe, and a faster processor. Now that's out of the way, let's talk about the day-to-day usage. I am using both of them side by side, and every time I hold like one of them, Pixel 6a feels a little bit cheap, not because of the build is fine, it's because of these thicker bezels. So if you just look them side by side, this has like symmetrical bezels. I know the notch is there, but otherwise even if you just look at it, this phone looks a little bit more premium. The weight of the phone is more or less the same. iPhone 6a has a plastic bag and iPhone 13 has a glass bag. Both have one advantage over the other. iPhone 13 can break easily. iPhone 6a can get scratched easily. But they both are glossy finish, so you might have to use a case for it. I'm using a iPhone 13 case and there is one case for the Pixel 6a as well. So I do have to use a case. In that case, I don't think you're going to notice the build as much. They also both have a flat panel, but with a slightly different aspect ratio, which makes a Pixel a little bit taller than the iPhone 13. And the iPhone 13 is slightly bit narrower, but if you want to use them with one hand, I don't think there is any problem with any of them. So if I want to just write anything, like let's suppose I'm doing this, I can easily reach anywhere if I just want to type in any sort of text. So in that regard, I don't think there's going to be a problem if you want to use them with one hand. Display is one area where I think iPhone has a huge edge. I mean, if I just talk about the quality control issue, this phone has a green tint, and that was the case with Pixel 6 as well. But with iPhone, it's a very good display. Apart from that, they both OLED and they have good color. So if you want to use them in a normal day-to-day scenario, both are just great, and the color reproduction on both of the phones are nice. The iPhone does get a much more brighter as compared to this iPhone 6, but if you want to use them outside, I don't think they're going to be a problem with any of them. So it does have a little bit more peak brightness, but seriously, I was using both of them in a broad sunlight and I didn't have any issue with any of them. But I still think if you just want to look at them, I think this is going to be a little bit more pretty screen, if you want to say it. So yeah, in that regard, I think this has a better screen. If I talk about the OTT platform, they both actually support HDR. So Netflix, iPhone supports the Dolby Vision, and on the Pixel 6a, you can see that it's going to be HDR. So let me just open any of the show. Let's see this. So episode, as you can see, this phone supports HDR, and if I talk about iPhone, it's going to support that Dolby Vision. Even the sound is great on both of them. Let me just play a video. So I really like the speakers on both of them. I think this is a little bit more clear, but when it comes to the bass and the clarity, I think they both are really good. So I don't have any complaint when it comes to the speakers. If I just talk about the refresh rate, they both support that 60 hertz panel. So yeah, like iPhone does feel a little bit smooth because it has slower animation. But if you want to open some app, like you can see, this feel a little bit faster. But because of that faster animation, the 60 hertz feel a little bit jerky. But if you want to just increase the animation, you can do that in the developer section. But if I'm using them side by side, I can like barely tell a difference. And if you want to use just like this scrolling, I don't feel any difference. This feels a little bit faster because of its animation, and it goes a little bit slower. But honestly, on day-to-day use, I can barely tell a difference. You will see some sort of frame drops here and there just because this is side by side and it works a little bit slower. But if you just want to open application, like everything works fine. This is also a really good chipset in that scenario. And if you want to use like any of the app, they both are great. So in the day-to-day usage, I don't think you're going to notice anything after 5 minutes, even if you're coming after from 120 hertz refresh rate, because I'm coming from Pixel 6 Pro to this. At first, it might feel a little bit choppy, but after using for some time, it's not going to bother you. If I just talk about the raw performance, the iPhone wins hands down, but that also depends on how much power you need on day-to-day basis. Google Tensor chip on this Pixel, it's not a mid-range chip by any means, but if you want to do gaming, iPhone definitely has advantage. But on day-to-day use, I don't really feel a difference when I'm using any app. They both work flawlessly. Like my mostly usage is going to be a social media app, and like they just work perfectly fine. So I don't have any issue when I'm using this phone every single day. I'm using the like 16 beta here. Let me just open that. Using iOS and this, it's going to be always tricky because they work in a different way. So let me just go to a notification panel here. So like I can show you the software update on this is going to be iPhone 16. This is a public beta, and on this phone I'm using that iPhone Android 13 beta. So they both are on beta, but if I just talk about the beta, this has much less bugs as compared to iOS 16, but I cannot judge the phone based on that. When I was using iOS 15 and Android 12 on this, iOS 15 was running much smoother. But as of now, if I'm using this phone side by side, they both, I think, have improved a lot. And I really don't want to go into the iOS and Android thing because they both have their advantage. Like I really like this new lock screen, the 3D look, and for this I really like the new widget. So it's totally going to be depending upon what you like. But when I set up a phone, I think after that I'm just going to use it, and I don't really care about how it looks after a point. Yes, there are some limitations here, and yes, there are some problems here as well. But trust me, I'm using both of them. And if you hand over one phone to me and use it for like many years, I can pick any of them without even thinking about it because they both work perfectly fine for me. One thing that actually surprised me on this Pixel phone is going to be the battery life. Actually, I've been using them every single day, side by side, and this battery has been performing really good. I would say like it's going to be quite consistent with iPhone. The problem is I cannot actually show you like how the battery life works because there is no good indication in this new Pixel UI anymore. But I can just say I was getting around 7 hours of screen on time and the 24 hours of usage on both of the phones on Wi-Fi, and on mobile data I can easily get 5 hours 30 minutes. This phone does get a little bit warm from this side if I'm using it under sunlight, but it was nowhere close that I don't want to use this phone. So in that regard, I think they both are really good. In the charging speed, this support 20 watt, this support 18 watt. So 0 to 80%, this charges a little bit faster. But when it comes to 100%, this goes to 100% a little bit faster. But you'll be looking at 2 hours for charging time. So I don't think that also a difference here. So in terms of battery life, I am really happy with this phone, especially after upgrading to 13 beta. The standby time has been really good. If I can just show you, like last night, this battery usage was really low. It's kind of stable. It was not the case with the Android 12, especially on the Pixel 6. If I just talk about the cell reception and call quality, I think both are doing a great job. I heard that a lot of people were complaining about the cell reception, but as you can see, I was losing one dot here most of the time and it was full. And in the call quality, they both were great. I am on 4G, both of them right now. So let me just do a quick fast speed test and see like what the speed I'm getting on both of the phones. So they both are using Airtel right now. I can do like both at the same time. So they both are using Airtel right now, the 4G. So let's see how the speed is going to be. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit more speed here, but when I usually do it, it's going to be 28, 30 Mbps on most of the time on both of them. So in terms of speed and connection speed, I didn't face any sort of issue, but I think I don't think it supports 4G plus right now, but it's going to support it very soon. So let's wait for that update. But otherwise, I didn't face any sort of issue. So let me just turn on the Wi-Fi again. This extra toggle just bothers me all the time. So yeah. There's one more problem I have with this Pixel 6a. I feel the front camera zoom a little bit way more. So as you can see, this are on both systems. So as you can see, like how close I am. So sometimes when I'm talking to someone and I take this phone up close, this feels a little bit weird. I don't know why it's doing it, because in the normal camera, as you can see, let me just cut this call. Let me open camera application. And if I just open the front camera, they both are quite wide. As you can see, they're really wide camera, but in the WhatsApp call, I don't know why it happens, but it's quite zooming in. Now the last thing I want to talk about is going to be the cameras. They both have the similar camera setup, one main sensor 12 megapixel and one ultra wide. So they both kind of performing really good for me when it comes to the photos. I'm not going to talk about the video because for video iPhone 14 wins, so you can actually get the 4K video recording on the front. You don't get that. And for the rear video as well, this is more stable and the colors are much better. So I'm just going to talk about the photos in this case. This is a quite old sensor, so I'm not sure if you can see it. If I just go close to my iPad, you can see the focusing speed, and there is a lot of graininess here. But when you click a picture, it's sort of like a magic. So let's look at the pictures now. Let's start with the daylight picture. You will see two types of difference here. Most of the time, Pixel will take the cooler temperature picture and iPhone will prefer the warmer tone. But there are some pictures where iPhone will go nuts with the white balance when there is a high dynamic, typical or like a difficult shot. Pixel also does a great job while retaining the highlight in dark environment. As you can see here on my mask, you can see the texture over it. And in the next picture in this plant, you can see on the soil area, you can actually see the soil much better on the Pixel phone. So when it comes to the dynamic range, I think Pixel is doing better. There is also one place where Pixel does really good is going to be the skin color. And I will always pick Pixel over iPhone when it comes to our skin color especially. I never liked the iPhone skin color, and it is worse on the front camera. So if you want to take more picture of human subject, Pixel will definitely going to be better. iPhone also have another advantage, like it has better shutter speed. So if you want to click faster picture, it will going to be less blurry, and they will have definitely more details because the sensor is much better on iPhone. But at the night time, I saw iPhone going overboard with sharpening sometimes. So in one picture, you'll see iPhone is performing better. But in the next picture, you'll see that on the tree area, you can see there is a different texture. Like it's just weird. It's showing that it's artificial. Pixel also produce a bit brighter image in the night shot. So if I just have to pick one phone, I am going to pick Pixel because the picture coming out for it are social media ready. See, up until now, I can easily switch to any phone right now and I don't have any problem. But there's only one thing that is bothering me on this phone, and that doesn't always happen, but it only happens when I'm using this phone with my right hand. So that's very strange, but when I try to unlock it in my right hand, now it's working because I had good moisture, but sometimes I feel like my right thumb is depriving from that moisture situation. So I don't know why I'm unable to unlock it with my right hand. It always gives me some problem. Right now I think I'm sweating a lot, so it's working fine. But with any other finger it works fine, but with my right thumb it gives me a lot of problem. So that is the only annoying thing about this phone. But otherwise, if I have to pick any of this phone, I really don't have any problem using any of this phone as my daily driver. So let me know your thoughts between both of them. Please also bear in mind this is a $450 phone and it's an $800 phone. And so you need to tell me, is it worth spending extra money on this phone? See, it does provide you a lot of things. Like I said, wireless charging, a good premium build. It's like the ecosystem that the Apple has. But do you really need it? If you don't need it, I would still go with this phone. Yes, there are a lot of issues going with fingerprint sensor unlocking with unregistered finger. I didn't have this problem, so I cannot really comment on it, but I think you should wait. And for India, this is also really expensive, so I will also ask you to wait for a good sale so you can get it cheaper. But otherwise, if I have to pick one just for the price, I'm going to pick this one. I really like this phone. It has everything I need. It's not the best in every category, but if I want to use a day-to-day basis, this is going to be a really good phone for me. But if you want a premium phone with amazing performance, great camera, great shutter speed, and if you like just want to go with all the bell and whistle, I think this is going to be the phone for you. So do let me know about your thought in the comment box. If you have any question, you can ask me in the comment box or you can just follow me on Twitter. My name is Rohit. I'll see you next one. Till then, bye bye.